quadratic function. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We want to set it equal to 0. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to get it set equal to 0. To set this one equal to 0, I am simply going to move the 9. Okay, so now it's set equal to 0. Now, I need to be able to identify A, B, and C. If you look at it, we've already done this in the past before. A is 4, B is 12, C is 9. Now, yesterday we learned to use this function a little bit. We learned to reduce it, but now we have to put these things in. It says x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So you should take all of these out when you do a problem like this, and you replace them with a, b, and c, and you have to look at the formula. Now the formula is specific. It's got signs in there. It's got a minus b. Okay, so the b happens to be 12. So when I put in the 12, it's going to make that turn into a negative 12. Originally it was a positive 12. Now it turned into a negative 12. B squared here, this is 12 squared. A is 4. A is 4. C is 9. Now we've got it set up. Yesterday we learned how to manipulate this thing. So we're going to rewrite it another step. What I've done is taken off the parentheses, made that negative 12. 2 times 4 is 8. But I want to figure out what's under the square root sign. So without putting it under a square root sign, we're going to take everything else, and we're going to take our calculator, and we're going to type in there 12 squared minus 4 times 9. Now, if you do that, I think, trying to do it in my head here, what it gives you is 0. Test it out, type it in your calculator. Take 12 squared minus 4 times 9, and see if I did that correctly. Becomes 0. Now, we didn't have any yesterday that became 0. But it's negative 12 squared plus or minus 0. So 0 would be the same thing. I'll show you that this really isn't going to matter. Yesterday, what we did then is we took this and we went negative 12 plus the square root of 0. Now, the square root of 0 is still going to be 0 over 8. I'm going to put a dot on here so it makes it a decimal. It tells me it's negative 1.5. And then we would change this to a subtraction sign, and it's still negative 1.5. So what the deal is, when you get 0, this turns into 0, and whether you add or subtract 0, it would still just be negative 12 divided by 8. So there's really just one answer when that thing becomes 0, and the answer is negative 1.5. Now, if you put it as negative 3 over 2, a reduced fraction, that's okay. That's the same thing. Okay? So, next question. Everybody good with that? We always want to start out by making one side be 0. subtracted the 8. Now I can identify A, B, and C. So we look at this formula and we're going to fill it in, identifying those things. But you want to be very careful because with the negative signs, it's very easy to mess these up. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 is a times c all over 2a. Simply, I start by taking out the a's, b's, and c's, and then I replace them with what they are. The b is negative 2. Everywhere I see a b, I put in a negative 2. But notice it's in parentheses. This, a negative negative, will turn to a positive. This, actually, negative 2 squared will also be positive 4 because the negative times the negative when we do it. But we're going to do that all in one shot to help ourselves out. But now A is 7, so I'll put a 7 in both those places because that is where A goes. And C is negative 8, so we'll put those in. 14 plus or minus the square root of something. We learned to manipulate this yesterday, and now you kind of see why. Did it in that order so we would figure out, okay, how do I do this piece? Negative 2 squared. Sorry, I don't know why I got the brackets, but I'm going to leave it. It should work. Minus 4. But subtract 4 times 7 times negative 8. Should get us 228. Is that what you got? That doesn't seem right. I think it is. I keep getting those crazy. All right, as long as we get 228, we're good. I don't know why I put it in the brackets. So we'll put 228. You what? What'd I miss? What? Oh, I don't know why I made it 4. Sorry, it should be positive 2. Because a negative negative makes it positive 2. Sorry. 2, right? Because a negative negative, negative times a negative is positive, and it should just be 2. Thank you. All right, so now control divide. 2 plus square root of 228 over 14. I'm going to put a dot because I think this one will be a decimal, and sure enough it is. And then 2 subtract 228. We get 1.22 and negative 0.94. Got it? Squared. I'm going to subtract 2x from each side. That will make this side be 13x. I'm going to subtract 1 equals 0. So for part C, we have 5x squared plus 13x minus 1. A is 5, B is positive 13, C is negative 1, minus B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. First, it makes it a lot easier if you rewrite the formula, then put all parentheses to fill it in. That's negative 13. The bottom, 2 times 5 is 10. Figure out what's under the square root sign. I think it's 189, but I'm going to let you check. $189, Mohammed? You what? Did you get 189 under here anyone? Okay, I guess I got to try it. Nobody got 189. Let's see. 13 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 1. 189. Okay? So now, control divide. We have negative 13 plus square root of 189 over 10.074. A little different than we normally get. Pretty small number, but it's there. Let's change the negative or the positive to a negative and get negative 2.674. Any questions? All right. Change this one. We have negative 1/2 x squared. We're going to add x. And what's the other number over there? Plus 1, so I'm going to subtract 1. So we get minus 8.5, 0. Now we can see A, B, and C. This one will be a little bit tricky. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. is B. A is negative 1/2. C is negative 8.5. X equals negative 1. 2 times negative 1/2 is also negative 1. Might need to put that in the calculator. If you want this one, you can, put it in so it's a fraction, but it'll turn it into a fraction. Anyway, that whole bottom becomes, or middle becomes negative 16 the way it looks. As soon as we have a square root of a negative, that's problematic. So we say that has no solution. Is that the last one, I think? Okay.